Thanks for coming out to our session here. This is Natalie. My name is Chris. We're both developers on a product at Salesforce called Einstein Prediction Builder. And this morning, we're going to talk to you a little bit about how to set up a machine learning application. This product I mentioned, Einstein Prediction Builder, is a tool in Salesforce that allows you to define and set up your own machine learning application with your own data in Salesforce. So what is Einstein Prediction Builder? Like I said, it's a tool that admins can use to set up machine learning problems. It's a point-and-click interface that's built to be very intuitive and then integrates directly into Salesforce. So you'll be able to create a machine learning app, receive predictions, and because it's integrated in Salesforce, you can then integrate this back into your own Salesforce workflows and applications. So the way it works, like I said, it uses your data in Salesforce. So any standard or custom object where you have data stored in Salesforce, it can use. Based on that data, we'll train a predictive model, and this model can be refreshed every month so that it stays up to date. And then using this model, we can produce scores and produce predictions every hour whenever the records change or whenever you add new records. And these predictions will be scores that you can see that's either a likelihood or a numeric prediction. So these are the types of things that Einstein Prediction Builder can predict. It can do numeric predictions, things like what is the final value of this count going to be? How long is it going to take to close this sale, for example? We can also do binary predictions. These are things that answer a yes or no question. Things like, is this customer going to churn? Is this sales lead likely to close? And for situations like this, we return a likelihood score, the likelihood of that yes or no event occurring. So let's get into defining the problem, defining the machine learning application. To do that, there are 4 key questions that we would like to answer. The first, what data are we going to use? In our case, it's going to be an object in Salesforce that contains our data. The second is, what do we want to predict? So within that data that we have a field that we want to predict. So this would be our churn or our account value or things like that. The next question we can answer is, what do we want to ignore, if anything? A lot of times in our data, there's stuff that's irrelevant to our problem, or maybe we want to focus on a particular market segment or something like that. So some of that data we may want to exclude from our predictive model. And the last question we need to answer is, in that data, what do we want to use as a representative example? So these are things where all of the information is in, things are in their final state, and we know how it ends up. So after the sale occurs, we know what the value is, but we don't want to look at it before the sale has occurred, for example. So this is going to be our historical data that we use that we know the outcome of. So let's get into an example, one scenario where we could use something like this. So let's say, for example, Natalie and I run a bicycle shop. We sell bikes and bike accessories to people, and we track all our sales in Salesforce. Now, one of the things we may want to do when we sell a bike, we also sell an extended warranty package. Some customers buy it, some customers don't. So the question that we would like to answer with Einstein Prediction Builder is, can we predict which of our sales opportunities are likely to result in purchasing an extended warranty? So let's look at the data that we have available. So since we track our stuff in Salesforce, we've created a field on our opportunities that we track that we call extended warranty purchase. So every time we close an opportunity, we track if they bought the extended warranty or not. And since this only happens after a sale is made, in situations where we don't make the sale, when the opportunity is lost, we're going to want to exclude that from our machine learning problem. So what are we going to be doing here? So ultimately what we're going to have is we're going to make a likelihood prediction that our available opportunities would be purchasing an extended warranty. So that will allow us to make sure that we're focusing our resources on the right customers and that we're asking the right questions of the right people. So, Natalie, do you think you can give us a demo of how this would work in Prediction Builder?
Yes, of course. I think we want to go through and define those 4 questions again for that object that we're trying to do. So what data are we going to use? We're going to use the opportunity object. What are we trying to predict? We want that extended warranty purchase field, which is what Chris defined earlier. Is there anything we can ignore here that we don't want included in our model? For us, the answer is yes. Anything that was closed and lost, we don't actually care about that since they didn't end up buying anything. For our model, it's really important to look at what examples we want going in, because what we put into our model will reflect what comes out of it. So we want to use things that are in the stage closed 1, meaning they completed successfully, so we can use those to see who's likely to buy this extended warranty purchase. So here we have all of our opportunities. Again, we're going to ignore things that are in the closed lost. For examples, we're going to use things that are in the stage closed 1. So these are representative opportunities that show both opportunities that were closed successfully in which they bought the extended warranty and in which they did not. So we can compare those two different sets to build our model. So this means that we're actually going to produce predictive results for things that are not closed 1 or closed lost yet. So what does this actually look like in practice? We can go over to our demo and see what Einstein Prediction Builder actually looks like. So this is the landing page. We can see we went through and created a prediction already, but we'll walk through what it looks like to build that prediction. So going in, we can just name our predictions. This will be the prediction for extended warranty. And here, we can go back to those 4 questions. So in this case, we're looking at the opportunity object. And the field, and this is saying, what in the opportunity object do we want to specifically look at? So as we said before, everything that has a stage that is not in closed lost is what we want to build that model on. What are we actually trying to predict? So this is the field that we want to look at to gather information to make those predictive results for this field. So that will be our extended warranty purchased checkbox. What examples are we trying to use? As Chris had said earlier, we want everything that is in that closed 1 stage. So that is going to be when the stage is closed 1. If there was any particular field on that object that we wanted to make sure was not included in our model, we could deselect that here. But for us, we're just going to go through and use everything that's on that opportunity object. And in Einstein Prediction Builder, the predictive results will be stored in a custom field on the object that you're building your prediction on. So for us, that's the opportunity object, and this will create a custom field on that object. So here, this will be the predictive results for extended warranty. And so it's going to go and create that field, and that's where we can go back and refer and get those results for us. And just like that, we've defined our machine learning model, and in the background, we'll be going and building that model. But just so we get a sense of what the results of that look like, we can go back and look at this other prediction. And here we see all of our opportunities, and this is that field that we created for that first prediction that came back successful. And we can see that all the different opportunities here have a score from 0 to 100 on the likelihood that they're going to have that extended warranty included. We also notice that things that are in the closed loss stage don't have a score because we said we could ignore those. And the opportunities that are in closed 1 also do not have a score because those were the examples we used going into the model. So that's one example of how we can use our, let me find the, cool. So there's also different situations that might need slightly different information going into your model. So for here, we're going to also look at a second use case, which is the case escalation use case. And this is slightly different because we'll want the information of relative dates in this. So there's a little more complicating logic that we need to think about before going through that setup, which we'll get into. But imagine in our situation, we have our bike shop, and in addition to selling bikes, we also have the option of servicing them. So that means a customer can come in with a bike that they previously purchased and want to get it serviced. And this can be a routine case, or something may have gone wrong, or for some reason this is more important or higher priority, and in that case, we would need a customer escalation. So customer cases that come in, they can become escalated. What we want to predict then is, will a customer case that's now open become escalated? What we know going in is that customer cases are only escalated in that first week after they've been open. After that, if it was never escalated, it'll just stay never escalated. We also know we have an is escalated field that captures this information. So what do we want to predict? We want to predict if current cases, meaning they were opened in the last week, are going to escalate. Again, we can go through those 4 questions and define our problem exactly how we want so that when we go through the prediction builder wizard, we're all good to go and we've thought about it. So here, what data are we trying to predict? We'll use the case object this time. And because we're using that relative date, meaning we want to know in the last week from now, we'll need to create a formula field to encapsulate that information because our is escalated checkbox doesn't have all of that information in there. For us, in this case, we can choose to use all of the data on the case object, meaning we won't ignore anything. And for examples, we'll want both positive and negative examples again, so things that have escalated, so the checkbox is escalated, and also things that have not escalated, meaning they're older than 7 days and have not escalated. So taking a big picture step back, looking at our data again, we see that we're not going to ignore anything. We'll use all of the records. For examples, because we're doing this formula field method, we need to explicitly state what are positive examples and what are negative examples. So again, positive, if it's escalated, that checkbox is true. Negative examples, if that checkbox is false and it's older than 7 days, so we know it will never be checked true. That leaves us with everything that we need to build the prediction on. And just like that, we can go through and build that formula field and use Prediction Builder to go through and make this prediction a real thing. Here's some pseudocode for how we would make that formula field. I've gone through it a lot, so we can just glance at this and then go see what the actual field looks like. So let's go back to our demo. Where'd you go? One second. Oh, I lost it.
Oh, it's up here on the screen.
Oh, never mind. My screen's messed up then. Okay, cool. Well, let me see if I can get my mouse over there. Interesting. Okay, we'll go ahead and do this then. So on our case object, we have this formula field that I talked through. This is what it looks like. It's a text formula field returning true for those positive examples, false for the negative examples, and null for everything that we want to score. So once we have that formula field, we can go through the wizard on our own and create a prediction for that. So here we're going to have a prediction for the case escalation. And we'll click through. And this will be on the case object. And going next. For now, before we defined here what we wanted to ignore and what we wanted to actually use from that object, we'll be using all of the information on that object, but this logic was also already done in the formula field. So because we put that extra work in the beginning, we can kind of skip through this part more. And we want to predict this formula field that we created, again, because it contains that relative date information. Here we can actually skip this page of the examples because, again, that was done in the formula field. We'll use all of the fields for this prediction. And again, we can just create this custom field here for predicted case escalation. And just like that, we've defined our second prediction on a slightly different, more complicated use case. So let's see if I can get back to our presentation. Beautiful. So we talked through 2 different cases today of how you can use Einstein Prediction Builder to define your machine learning problem. Just to summarize, the 4 big questions that we want to keep going back to are, what data do you want to use going into your prediction? What exactly are you trying to predict on that object? Is there anything that you can ignore going in? And which records can you use as examples? And it's really important to stress this examples point because the data that you give your model is what it's going to use to generate those results. So good data going in as examples will give you better results coming out. As we saw today, there's two different ways that you can go about doing this. You could do it exclusively through the Prediction Builder wizard, and these are for simple things that you already have a field capturing all the information in that. So that's a checkbox field, or as Chris explained earlier, you can use a numeric field for that as well. The other way is if you want to have more complicated logic going into those predictions, you can use a formula field and then finish it off through the Prediction Builder wizard. So thank you so much for coming to our talk. We have a little bit of time left over for questions, and Chris and I will stick around and answer anything that people have going on after. We also wanted to let you know that there's the developer keynote today at 1 p.m. So stop by that. They have some cool things going on. So thank you for your time.
All right, thanks so much.